Hi, this is Michael, and today I'm here with my persuasive speech on why child abuse laws should be the same across the board. So I'm sure many of you have heard or seen about stories where children have been murdered due to child abuse or neglect. Well, if you're like me, you're probably wondering what could possess a person to do such a horrible thing. Better yet, you may question what legal measures were being taken to prevent this from occurring, and what laws are there regarding child abuse, or how many cases are even being reported a year. Well, I have that information here, and we'll get into that later. But first, let's look at some factors for reoccurring child abuse. Also, the difference between abuse and discipline, and the process after abuse has been reported. So many children do fall victim of child abuse a year, and this is usually due to the lack of educational training, not enough mandated reporters, and also the lack of parents being able to afford their everyday resources. Based on one state, the laws vary when it comes to reporting and handling child abuse cases. So having a standard guideline across the board could help in providing sufficient care for the children that are in danger, also providing more affordable resources for families who have been victims of child abuse could minimize the potential of them becoming victims or victimizing others later on in life. The difference between disciplining and child abuse is that discipline is defined as punishment or penalization for the sake of enforcing obedience and or perfecting moral character, and that is per the Webster Dictionary. Also, religion and cultural backgrounds play a huge part when it comes to raising children, and this also includes the belief on punishment. In many countries, corporal punishment is prohibited. However, in the United States, it is not, but the law does vary from state to state. So overall, it is not against the law to punish your child. Legally, you can whoop or spank your child as long as you don't leave any marks or bruisings and it doesn't interfere with the child's with the welfare of the child. So legally speaking, according to the Federal Child Abuse Prevention Act and Treatment Act, they define child abuse and neglect at minimum any reason or act on a part of a parent or a caretaker which results in death, serious physical or emotional harm, sexual abuse or exploitation, or the act or failure to act with which presents an intimate risk of serious harm. Now, that's a lot. According to an article by Amy Moore, abuse can be broken into 4 different types, such as physical, emotional, sexual, and neglect when it comes to state laws. Physical abuse is federally defined as any non-accidental physical injury. This is included in all state laws, but it does vary from state to state. Emotional abuse is not included in every state, but it is defined as the injury to the from the sociological capacity or emotional stability of a child based on an observational change in behavior or emotional response. And like physical abuse, sexual abuse is defined in every state abuse laws, but it does vary as well. An example of that would be that the laws about statutory rape and the age of consent, those greatly vary from state to state, and sexual exploitation is considered a part of definition of the sexual abuse in most states, which includes sex trafficking crimes and child pornography. So I do believe that the problem begins with these laws not being acknowledged in every state, as well as the laws varying from state to state. This includes the laws regarding reporting abuse and how Child Protective Service has responded to reports. That also varies state to state, proving to be the biggest problem instead of solution, considering that Child Protective Service was put in place as a solution to help those, and the process itself kind of hinders those. So the first process is called intake, and that's where they determine the seriousness of a report. and that determines the urgency on how they respond. Also, after that follows a 30 to 90 day investigation where caseworkers collect evidence and determine whether your case is founded or unfounded. And founded means that it is more than likely that abuse has occurred, and unfounded is it's more than likely abuse has not occurred, or there just isn't enough evidence present to prove that it has occurred. The problem with cases being labeled unfounded is that it doesn't mean that it's not happening. It could just be that the predator is clever at what they're doing and knows the laws, and this also leaves the child in danger. And also the person who has reported it, because in many states it is mandatory that the reporter's information is disclosed. So as you can see on this chart that I have created, it is the reports of cases of abuse, and this is from 2012 to 2014, and it's started in 2015. It was about 5,500 cases, and by the time of 2014 there was over 11,000 cases reported. So each year the report cases keep going up. However, the number of cases that have been that get resolved each year is only about 84% of those. Still 20 something percent of those go unsolved or don't even get acknowledged within that 30 to 90 day frame, just because they don't have enough staff. So I feel that if there was a general set of laws and standards regarding child abuse that was just straight across the board for the United States, it would help reduce the child's deaths. Also, it would help with the rules and regulations to be clear within the system on who, how, when, and where reports should be reported, and also the time frame on the government that the government has to respond to reports, as well as programs for families and children that are in danger or at risk being available to partake in during open investigations could tremendously help those that are at risk not be in danger and harmed way while investigations are occurring.